Alexandra Eala and Leylah Fernandez have been confirmed for a first-round singles match at the 2026 Porsche Tennis Grand Prix in Stuttgart. And the moment Eala addressed the comparison publicly, this stopped being just about tennis. This is a collision of trajectories. And the gap between where Eala stands right now and where Fernandez once stood is the detail this story has been afraid to say out loud.
Are you familiar with these comparisons, and how do you feel about that?
No, I'm not really familiar with those comparisons, but I think Leylah's a great player, obviously.
Let's be clear about what's actually happening here. The media has leaned hard into words like controversy and call-out. But when Alexandra Eala spoke about it, there was no call-out. What Eala said was this: "I'm not really familiar with those comparisons, but I think Leylah is a great player. She's a trailblazer in her own way. I'm not mad about that comparison at all." And Leylah Fernandez described Eala as a sweet girl, an amazing person, super kind, adding that on court, she sees someone fierce and very determined who plays really beautifully. Two players, zero hostility. So where is all this coming from? YouTube channels like Asalytics and Courtscope have been pushing theories about corrupt referees and racial bias against Eala, particularly around calls made during the Australian Open. On Reddit, there are ongoing debates about Eala pulling more popular weight than Fernandez. The noise is real, but the source isn't the players. And that distinction completely changes how you watch this Stuttgart match. But that wasn't the end of the story, because the numbers on court tell a very different kind of tension.
I'm not so close with her. We've had a couple of interactions, but she seems like a nice girl, so not mad about that comparison at all. She's a good player.
Going into April 2026, Alexandra Eala holds a season record of 14 wins and 8 losses, roughly 64%. Leylah Fernandez arrives in Stuttgart at 4 wins and 9 losses. That's a 31% win rate. This isn't a slump. This is a season in crisis. Fernandez has dropped 5 opening round matches. She's been beaten twice by Indonesia's Janice Tien, a rising name but not a top 30 force. Her most recent result before Stuttgart was a third-round loss to Diana Schneider at the Charleston Open. Meanwhile, Eala's 2026 has been built on precision. In Dubai, she took apart Jasmine Paolini, the world number 6 at the time, 6-1, 7-6. At Indian Wells, she got past world number 4, Coco Gauff. By March 16th, Eala reached a career-high ranking of number 29. Her year-to-date prize money sits at $487,364. That puts her 29th on the entire WTA prize money leaderboard for the season. Fernandez has earned $349,761 in the same stretch. The gap in 2026 form isn't subtle, it's structural. And here's where things shifted, because Stuttgart is actually not the first time these two have shared a court.
The WTA 500 draw is out in Stuttgart, and we have a mouth-watering clash that's going to be coming up between Alex Eala and Leylah Fernandez.
On February 3rd, 2026, at the Mubadala Abu Dhabi Open, Leylah Fernandez and her partner Kristina Mladenovic faced Alexandra Eala and Indonesia's Janice Tien in a doubles match that ran for 1 hour and 33 minutes. Fernandez and Mladenovic won. The breakpoint numbers told part of the story. Eala and Tien saved 33.3% of breakpoints. Fernandez and Mladenovic saved 50%. Total points across the match: Eala and Tien won 60 of 130. Fernandez and Mladenovic took 70. That doubles match in Abu Dhabi was the first real data point between these two, and it's now a footnote heading into a singles reckoning. Fernandez has already beaten Eala's team once in 2026. The question Stuttgart answers is whether that edge carries over when there's no partner, no shared pressure, just one player against one player on the baseline. What happened next in Eala's season changed the context of this match in a way that had nothing to do with tennis.
No, I'm not really familiar with those comparisons, but I think Leylah's a great player, obviously. She did the final in US Open a couple of years back, so she's a trailblazer in her own way.
At the 2026 Australian Open, after a routine practice session, a crowd of fans swarmed Alexandra Eala so aggressively she was physically pinned against a wall with no room to move. Eala had to shout for space. After that incident, her management announced that Eala would now request dedicated security for all practice sessions, a level of protection described as typically reserved for top 5 players like Iga Swiatek or Novak Djokovic. A second fan disruption was also reported during her match against Laura Siegemund in Miami. __quote_8. __ is the phrase people use, but being pinned against a wall shouting for space isn't a marketing term. That's the physical cost of a cultural phenomenon the WTA Tour's infrastructure simply wasn't built to handle. Eala arrives in Stuttgart as one of the most closely watched players in the world, not just by fans in the Philippines, where ABS-CBN and GMA Network have made her matches front-page events, but by a global tennis audience that's actively recalibrating its expectations. The Stuttgart match is scheduled for late afternoon local time, which lands at roughly 4 p.m. in Manila. That's not a footnote, that's an entire nation pausing its evening to watch. And the court itself adds one more layer that neither player can neutralize.
This tournament has a really long history, so I'm super excited to be here. It's obviously a great tournament, that 500 level on clay. I think this will be my first 500 on clay, so I think that says a lot about my improvement from last year. So I think, I have to take it in with...
The surface at the Porsche Arena is indoor clay. Eala addressed this directly. The indoor clay in Stuttgart feels a little bit different from a normal clay court because it's 10. She also noted that playing a WTA 500 event on clay __11__. This is her first WTA 500 on clay, a benchmark that shows just how steep and compressed this rise has been. Now add the tactical dimension that makes this match genuinely unusual. Both Eala and Fernandez are left-handed. Both use a two-handed backhand. In professional tennis, left-handers typically carry a natural serve advantage, wide patterns that target a right-hander's backhand. When two lefties meet, that disappears completely. The asymmetry that lefties build their games around is just gone. What's left is baseline consistency, tactical redirection, and the ability to hold steady under pressure. Eala's game is built on defensive range and patience. She outlasts opponents in long exchanges. Fernandez takes the ball early and looks for aggressive angles when the opportunity opens up. On a surface that's _12, the player who controls pace, not just absorbs it, has the edge. Eala, at 1.75 meters, holds a 7-centimeter height advantage. She was trained on clay at the Rafael Nadal Academy in Mallorca, under coaches Joan Bosch and Alexandra Eala. Fernandez's biggest results have come on hard courts. The French Open Juniors title is the outlier. On paper, this reads as Eala's match. But paper doesn't account for what Leylah Fernandez has already proven she can do. Here's the fact that every conversation about Fernandez's 4-9 record has quietly stepped around. In September 2021 at the US Open, Leylah Fernandez, 19 years old, beat Naomi Osaka, then Angelique Kerber, then Alina Svitolina, then Aryna Sabalenka, 4 top 10 seeds, 1 Grand Slam. She reached the final, where she lost to Emma Raducanu. 2 years later, in 2023, Fernandez led Canada to its first ever Billie Jean King Cup title. Her career-high ranking of number 13 came in August 2022. That version of Fernandez, the one who neutralized Sabalenka before Sabalenka became a 2-time Slam champion, the one who outlasted Svitolina at the peak of her consistency, hasn't retired. Fernandez is 23 years old. The 4-9 record in 2026 is real, but so is the player who built everything that came before it. And both of them walk onto the indoor clay of the Porsche Arena on April 13th. The winner moves on to a projected second-round match against Jasmine Paolini, the number 5 seed. The same player, Eala, already took apart 6-1, 7-6 in Dubai. And beyond Paolini, Elena Rybakina, the world number 2 and top seed in Stuttgart, is waiting in the quarterfinals. For Eala, a deep run pushes her back toward that career high of number 29. For Fernandez, a win in this first round isn't just a result, it's proof that the 2021 version of Leylah Fernandez is still there, still capable, still arriving.
You know, I've only dreamed of making tennis grow in the Philippines, and now I'm bringing a whole new audience to tennis all around the world.
So here's the question Stuttgart can't answer in advance. Eala has the 2026 form, she has the clay foundation, she has the security detail and a nation watching from Manila at 4 p.m. But Fernandez has already beaten Eala's team once this year in Abu Dhabi. And somewhere inside that 4-9 record is a player who once spent 2 weeks at a US Open eliminating the best in the world, one by one. The real question, the one that survives the final point, is this. In that 1 hour and 33 minutes in Abu Dhabi, did Fernandez see something in how Eala plays that the rest of the tennis world hasn't accounted for yet? Because if Fernandez walked onto that Stuttgart court already knowing the answer, the form chart means nothing.